We're told our whole lives to be helpful, right? To be agreeable, to be that yes man, because that's supposedly the key to getting ahead. But what if that whole strategy is actually, well, what if it's sabotaging your entire life? Let's dive into a much more brutal reality, the kind that masters of strategy have understood for centuries. So let me just ask you, straight up, is your deep-seated desire to be nice actually your single biggest weakness? Could it be the very thing that's holding you back from the success and honestly the respect that you really want? That's the core conflict we're going to unpack right now. And this quote just gets right to the cold, hard truth of it all. See, every time you say yes when your gut is screaming no, you're not being a team player, no. You're signaling to the entire world that you are a sheep in a room full of wolves. You're literally training people to see you as a resource to be used, not a force to be respected. Okay, so to really understand this, we need to break down the external traps first. These are the ways our constant yes just throws the door wide open to manipulation and creates this perception of weakness that other people can and absolutely will exploit. So first up, we've got something called the sympathy extraction. This is the playground of the professional manipulator. They have this perfectly polished sob story and it's always ready to go. They are not looking for a friend, okay? They're looking for an opening. And your desire to be their savior? That is the exact weakness they're hunting for. And here is the huge disconnect. You think you're being a good person, offering a shoulder to cry on. But what's really happening? You're lowering your guard, you're sharing information, and you are handing over leverage, ammunition that can and probably will be used against you down the line. All right, next up is a trap that we actually build for ourselves. I call it the promise prison. Look, when you're under pressure, it is so easy to just say yes to make that immediate discomfort go away. But then you start making promises you know you can't keep. You're writing checks that your reality just can't cash. Machiavelli understood this danger centuries ago. He warned that every single unfulfilled promise is a debt against your reputation, and it just compounds over time, like interest, until eventually your word means absolutely nothing. You've built your entire foundation on quicksand. And then there's this trap, where our own insecurity just completely betrays us. Competence theater. This is when we say yes to some project we don't really understand just because we hope it'll make us look capable and important. We think we're projecting confidence. But the brutal reality, it's the exact opposite. This performance doesn't fool anyone who's paying attention. All that overcompensating does is shine a massive spotlight on your insecurity, on your inadequacy. And to anyone with a strategic mind, you become totally predictable. Now let's talk about the generosity trap, because this one feels a little counterintuitive at first. You think that by always saying yes, by always giving, you're building up this, bank account of loyalty and goodwill with people. But here's the crazy psychological truth. Constant generosity doesn't create loyalty. It creates expectation. Your yes becomes the new normal, the baseline. So the one time you finally have to say no, you're not seen as someone setting a healthy boundary. Nope. You are suddenly the villain, and all that past generosity is just gone, instantly forgotten. Okay, that brings us to section 2, self-betrayal traps. Now we're moving beyond external manipulation. These are the internal failures, the ways our own poor strategies and frankly lack of boundaries lead to our own downfall. And this brings us to a really crucial strategic concept, absence. Think about it. If you are always there, always available, always saying yes to every meeting, every social event, your presence loses all of its power. It's basic economics. Scarcity creates value. And by being too accessible, you just become background noise. And again, we see this huge gap between what we want and what we get. Your intention is to be seen as a core, valued member of the group. But the reality is, by never being scarce, your input is just taken for granted, and your impact diminishes until it's practically zero. Now this is a critical failure if you want to achieve your own success. It's a lack of outcome obsession. Every single time you say yes to some small, low-value task that doesn't actually push your primary goals forward, you are implicitly saying a very loud no to building your own empire. Your intention is noble, right? You want to seem helpful, be a good colleague. But the brutal reality is that you are actively trading your future ambitions for the temporary approval of other people. You are choosing, consciously or not, to build their empire instead of your own. And that leads us to the most dangerous trap of all, self-betrayal. This is when you say yes to something that flat out violates your own values. As Machiavelli suggested, your mind is your throne, and every time you betray it, you're not just being nice, you're actively teaching people that your limits mean nothing and that your throne can be easily conquered. Okay, so we have clearly diagnosed the problem. Now, how do we fix it? How do we go from being the reliable helper to becoming the untouchable authority? Well, the solution lies in a complete, radical mindset shift. The answer is something we can call strategic virtue. It's all about understanding that no is not a negative word. It is the most powerful strategic tool that you have. By saying no to almost everything, you make your yes a rare and valuable commodity, an event that carries real weight and commands serious respect. So here it is. Here's your path to power. First, you have to learn to recognize these traps playing out in your daily life. Second, you have to start practicing strategic absence, make your presence scarce and therefore valuable. Third, develop a ruthless outcome obsession. Focus only on what truly builds your empire. And finally, the foundation for all of it, you must consciously choose to seek respect over approval. This right here, this becomes your new core affirmation. I choose respect over approval. Just that simple shift in priority changes everything. It becomes the new filter through which every single potential yes or no has to pass. So I'll leave you with this one final question to think about. Every single time you're about to say yes, I want you to pause and ask yourself this. Whose empire are you building? Are you laying a brick for your own future, or are you just building a wall for somebody else? The choice, as always, is yours.